Hey guys, welcome to the Jury Duty podcast. We are your hosts. I am Lindsay. That is my co-host Bestie, who just survived Rona 2025.
You guys have no idea.
She's here and she has Scream on her shirt.
It says no, you hang up.
That's funny.
That's
Props
my
to the
favorite
shirt.
franchise. I have a signed Jamie Kennedy Scream mask in here somewhere.
It's so crazy.
It's my jam. Yes, I've narrowly survived the Rona.
Narrowly survived the Rona. That's why we had to take a moment to get back to you guys, but alas, we are back. Guys,
we're back. And if I start doing this though, like a lot, it's because I'm on Paxlovid and I can't stop doing that because my mouth tastes like metal because side effects. It's like licking the interior of a used car cup holder, just nothing but quarters. So just give me some grace if I'm over here like
sounds like she's sucking on pennies.
I can't stop like
mop.
Continue.
Okay. If you are new here, we are delighted to have you. If you are a return customer of ours, welcome back. Welcome back. Hey. So, before we get started, just a couple things. Like, share, subscribe if you want. Hang out with us on our socials. We are, I don't know, neck deep in Brandon content because we pulled back the layer a little bit and everything started coming really fast.
And that's because there's not an organized, like there's information out there, but it's not like easy to find. But also, this is one of the lesser known elements of this that people until now have been like not entirely paying attention to no fault of their own, but it's important. It's very important.
It's very important. And I think people have a lot of curiosity in timeline as well as what was going on in Melanie's timeline at the same time. I said time a lot.
It's okay. It's like a Marvel movie and Tarantino put together, going backwards, going forwards. Well, there's a lot of interest in Melanie. I think we can all agree that we're interested because it's kind of like the WTF moment. Where's Melanie?
Mm-hmm.
Is she not going to be charged with anything? Like, did she disappear into the mist? Is she Carmen Sandiego? So understandably, we're just as curious, which is why we're going to break this into parts because it's a lot. It's a lot. So this episode specifically is part 1. The people have spoken, and I think people are really curious about what happened on October 2nd with this attempt on Brandon's life. We will definitely be covering plenty more than that, but this is like peak interest right now. So this will be part 1 of explaining the relevant things happening right before October 2nd. It's important to get some of that lead up context, and there's plenty of it. Then we'll do the next episode focusing just on October 2nd and the immediate aftermath, because there is a lot. And there could be a part 3, because into the future, by several months from that point, Melanie's alleged possible involvement comes into play in their custody and their legal issues. And it does also lend some credence to the plausibility of her being an unnamed conspirator. COVID, an unnamed conspirator in the October 2nd attempt on Brandon's life. So we're going to do plenty of episodes. Lindsay's probably going to commit me to a padded room with grippy socks because I have stacks of legal papers, photos, really granular details, because we want to give those to you sort of in piecemeal, but so you can have the whole package and you don't have to look everywhere for them. But it's a lot to go through. So please stick around and hit the notification, subscribe button, because this is just the start. We want to educate, inform as much as we can. And if we did that in this one episode, we'd be here for hours. And we know you guys just love that.
Mm-hmm.
We love it. But we also have plenty of content that we can create just about Melanie, who she is. She's done plenty of interviews that are contradictory. Her role in the whole picture of Lori's crimes, because that's significant too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What else do you think? Lindsay, we got plenty of stuff.
Yeah,
It's coming.
We've got plenty of stuff. I mean, just kind of going through the comments, you guys are really wanting to know why Melanie isn't charged with anything at this point, which we probably won't know until after the trial. We may never know. We may never know.
We might not, but I hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case. But you guys were asking about that. You were asking about just Melanie timeline, just a Brandon timeline. Where are the kids, custody, just kind of the ins and outs, right? The ins and outs of what's happening. People want tea. They want tea, then we want an out. So we have done some deep diving into some stuff. So buckle in. Lego.
All right. So let's set some foundation first, because there's going to be visuals to this. Yay. I know you guys love that so much. Of course, Melanie has not been charged yet. Clearly, she plays a critical role in forming a nexus between Lori, who is on trial, and Brandon. And the foundation we're going to talk about first is the lead up to Charles's death is important contextually. For lack of a better word, it's context clues. And what you'll see here are plenty of themes as well. But also, Brandon takes their 4 kids after Charles's death and immediately goes into hiding, fearing that they are all next. And this, of course, is just going to add to the burning desire to have him eliminated. But some themes that you're going to see here that are important to Melanie and Brandon specifically is Lori needing protection, needing to isolate people. Evidence of Lori's influence on Melanie and the manipulation of her vulnerability. For example, Lori was basically a surrogate mom to Melanie, and Melanie shares certain personality traits like a need to feel important, relevant, special. She has a lot of trauma from her childhood. And the parental roles that Lori and Chad sort of play later really feed her insecure attachment style. So some of the questions people have is like, why? People don't know why Alex got so bought in, but Melanie especially, like, why? That does explain some of it, and she became a loyal disciple. Her loyalty in this case is a large part of her divorce, which dominoes to this attempt on his life and the event. So it's all relevant. There's no small details. Another theme, gaming the system, insurance payments, but you'll see that it's not just Lori's MO. It seems to also be an idea that Melanie comes up with. But also patterns of fast falling dominoes. Things happen in rapid succession that are too numerous to be coincidences, and that just fits in sort of with the overall, way that this operated from the beginning of Lori's descent into whatever madness she's in. But the why. Why was this attempt on his life made? Why did Brandon need to lose his life? Plain and simple, Lori wanted to eliminate him to protect Melanie's custody, to shut someone up that she perceived as a threat to her eccentricities, to eliminate an ally of her husband, Charles, who was interrupting their future planning. And there was $1 million reason, and that's called insurance. It's part of a broad pattern of really violent conspiracy behavior in this. So Melanie was just another pawn available for play on the board, something she still doesn't seem to agree with. So there's a little bit of context. Let's start, Lindsay, in June of 2019, before I get the graphics on the screen. June 27th of 2019, Melanie and Brandon Boudreaux are still married. As we know, this is just maybe 2 weeks before Charles's death. June 27th, Melanie asks Brandon for a divorce. She also tells him on this day in, I believe, her father, Steve Cope's house, maybe as an intermediary, I don't know, but that she's received a revelation from God that he is dangerous and not safe with him. And that kicks off other episodes that we'll do on just how wild and absolutely outrageous that divorce battle became. It's relevant because her mental health has come into question. 3 days later, on June 30th, you can see Charles is peppering in mentions of Melanie and Brandon in his text messages to Lori, asking how she can live with herself, destroying lives, Mel and Brandon's life. So it's still very much a fact that Brandon is going to be an impediment with or without Charles. But Charles wastes no time in pointing out to her that she's ruining all these lives. And then into July. So July 8th, 2019. So remember, Charles is shot on July 11th. This is a critical day in the Melani Brandon sort of timeline here, so to speak. This is the day she physically files for divorce. We'll cover it. Not today, but we'll cover it. But it's interesting to note that at this time, she is still paying on an insurance policy for Brandon and never stopped paying on it despite being told to stop paying on it. So,
Wonder why.
July 8th, the really official showdown begins, and it's calm at first. I'll say that. It's calm at first. It doesn't get crazy until about September. But July 8th, Melanie's like, nope, we're gonna sever our ties now. And then you can start to see sort of this takeover, this personality takeover that Melani is going through because of her exposure to Lori and Chad. So let me bring up the visual. So July 9th, 2019. This is a summary because if I actually put all these text messages on the screen, we'd be here all night. Lori and Melani are texting. Lori and Alex are texting. Lori and Chad are talking in this 3-hour time window of about 7:21 p.m. to 10:27 p.m. Lori has now been made aware that Adam and Charles are planning to hold this intervention, and Melani is supposed to be going to Utah for a wedding. You may have heard this briefly in one of her many recent trials. But here's what's happening on July 9th. Bullet points. Lori tells Melani she needs to talk to her ASAP. She's also talking to Chad on the phone. And she tells Melani that she's looking for details about this setup that Adam and Charles are about to wage against them. And Melani suggests that she takes all the babies and drives away with them. Lori says they have to stay and defend themselves. And Trina K read this aloud many times. Everything's coming to a head. This week will change everything. This is that day. Melani says that she felt sick about going away to this wedding. And Lori continues insisting that she cannot go and she needs to stay. And this happens a couple more times before July 11th. It makes you wonder, was Melani still on the fence? Like, was her young, carefree frivolity kicking in? Like, but I want to go to this wedding. And Lori is just insisting, no, you need to stay here. At some point during the evening, while she's trying to convince Melani to stick around, she talks to Chad and then begins texting Melani about how dark Brandon is and that she should keep her daughter specifically away from him. So she's really preying on this radicalization that Melani is really starting to lean into, and I think shows the manipulative nature of getting what you want, Lori style. So she says, well, I just talked to Chad. He told me that Brandon's super dark. You should probably keep your daughter away from him. I'm going to guess that of the 4 Boudreaux kids, that the daughter was maybe one that wasn't labeled as dark. 2 of them were. This is also the day that Lori tells Alex the plot is thickening. Charles, meanwhile, is texting Lori, getting no replies, sending a bunch of question marks. And this is when Lori tells Alex he needs to stay close, and Melani too. And this is the famous Nephi text that I won't put on the screen and give any more attention to. And then for an hour, Lori and Alex talk on the phone.
Well, I'm sick of the Nephi text.
Nephi.
That was just, anyway, as you're reading kind of all of this, I'm like picturing in my mind how this is going.
July 10th, 10:52 in the morning. Melani says again, she really wants to go to this wedding. But this, no context. This is more important. Lori says, I know, baby, I'm so sorry. This is your mission, even though I know it's hard to just sit there. So, not entirely sure what this is, but I think we can agree now that the trial for Charles has already happened, that this isn't just, I don't want to have an intervention. It makes no sense. Why do you need an army of disciples around you to avoid an intervention? Just don't go to the intervention, Lori. what do you need all these people around for? You know what I mean? I don't believe the whole maybe she truly believes they're out to get her and give me a break. She did not. Absolutely not. That's not an option for me in reality. The simple fact is, if you don't want to go to a tea party, RSVP no. Shouldn't have to go to the intervention. It's almost like she's making it seem like if she doesn't go, they're going to bust down her door like Jean-Claude Van Damme, just that door right in and come get her. And she's sort of building this fear response for Melani, at least. Alex, I don't know that she would have needed to do that. Alex was a part of the nuclear family that probably was aware more than Melani, but she's really preying on Melani here. Like, this is your mission. What's your mission? Hang out here. Don't go to a wedding because I need you because someone's trying to have an intervention for me. Like, what does this have to do with Melani? The only conclusions you can draw is that they all know something's about to happen. And she wants as much buffer as she can get. So
yeah, I mean that she's kind of notorious for running and hiding and not responding, right? So don't
right.
show up to the intervention.
Right.
Yeah.
And why again do you need Melanie to stop what she's doing just to be there and sit, especially just to sit there? It's contradictory. Go to the wedding then. So I think we can all sort of come to the logical conclusion that there's more action that's happening than inaction. Again, you don't want to go somewhere, don't go.
Yeah.
So Lori, Alex, and Melanie decide they're going to eat lunch. They go to Summer's house for the day. Now remember, in the background, I don't want to see any comments about how terrible Janice and Summer and how terrible they should feel. Bear in mind that at this point in time, none of Lori's family, maybe aside from Adam, who people are already sort of calling a bit of a drama queen, like, bro, calm down. She's a grown woman. She's not hurting anybody. Like, literally, that was the mindset. She's not hurting anybody because at this point, no one had been hurt.
Mm-hmm. Just let it go.
There's got to be a really strange, surreal sense of, I don't know what's going on, but it feels like this doesn't need to be up here, turned up to 11. So the family did not really quite have any idea what was about to unfold. And a lot of people get very bent out of shape. Why is Summer telling everybody their location? And you have to realize that at this point in time, Summer, Janice, they don't know that in telling Lori, like, hey, your brother's kind of up in arms over here and Charles been bugging us. They don't realize that by tipping her off, they think they're doing her a favor, like, it's going to be nothing but trouble, just stay away. They don't realize that they are basically like undercover copping her. They don't realize how nefarious it looks that they're tipping her off, like, ooh, Adam's coming back, don't come to the house. They just think that they're playing this terrible game of family whack-a-mole that so many families play when they're dysfunctional. They don't realize that they're literally giving her an actual roadmap to avoiding this intervention and avoiding basically having her plan spoiled, because God only knows what would have happened had this intervention taken place. So that evening, Lori is again telling Melanie, stay here in Arizona, don't go to Utah for this wedding. And I'm guessing that Melanie relents. She says, well, Alex is here now and Charles is going to come over in the morning. We all know what happens July 11th. I don't need to put it here on a slide.
We're moving on. Yeah.
Moving on. May Charles rest in peace.
This is about
But what happens? Yeah, what happens after that is still relevant. Charles's death is very relevant to what would happen with Brandon, because that's one challenge for Lori that's been eliminated. Something that was slowing her down significantly, because whether she wanted to let it show or not, she had to be jumping through fiery hoops to keep Charles from getting to Tammy, to keep Tammy from opening the emails, and Chad blocking email addresses or checking emails and delete. That's a lot of fancy footwork to keep everything separate and neat. I imagine that maybe on the inside, Lori's like, oh my God, how this is more difficult than coming up with a conspiracy to commit murder. Emails. And I can't imagine how cheaters just do this. But the amount of coordination to keep Charles away from Tammy, away from Chad, getting on a plane, going to confront, that would have just been no bueno. But also Charles was confiding in Brandon and Adam. And since those two individuals were clearly not playing for Team Lori, they were also a problem. Adam less so than Brandon, because Adam doesn't really have a horse in the race as far as anything to lose by not involving himself anymore. By being cut off and being sort of shunned out, Adam really was spared quite a bit, because without Charles to sort of step in and defend and try to help, Adam was basically just out there by himself, like, okay, I tried that. That clearly did not work. Other than being completely just cut off from his family, when you're cut off, there's really no more involvement you can put yourself in to get in the way. Gratefully, because he's still with us. But Brandon still had a horse in the race, because his wife has now sort of been abducted into this pod people society, and they share children. So it's not done for him yet. And Charles's death just raises the stakes, because now he is terrified. Terrified. He takes his children, their children, and goes into hiding because he knows they're next. And he has told people loud and clear that that is absolutely what he thought was happening. So Brandon goes into hiding. And July 13th, after Charles's death, Lori has that casting to hopefully, whether that's genuine or not, rid Brandon of his darkness, because he had an evil spirit living in him. Sound familiar? And that he was a very high dark. July 13th, Melani is also relocating out of the marital home, as is Brandon. He removes his things from their home, disappears, thanks be to God. And Melani texts Lori that morning and says, Adam just called Brandon and told him that Al murdered Charles, and he put it on speaker for me to hear. And she's texting Lori, can you talk, please? So Brandon is now like, what?
Yeah.
What? Because Adam is sounding the alarm one last time how he can. And Melani continues to say, I think Brandon found out earlier. He seemed in shock a few hours ago. And then Adam and Brandon tried to use the situation to their advantage. He cornered me and Adam put it on speaker to tell me. Then Brandon said, do you still believe everything you believe? She continues, Brandon is with the moving truck at my new address moving things. I'm at the house with the kids. And then finally, Lori says, call me. So I don't know what that conversation looked like. Couldn't find it documented anywhere. But then Melani texts Lori again a couple of hours later and says, does Tylee have a phone or a way to contact Brandon or Adam? Lori, nope, I still have it. The kids are still alive at this point. This is July. Clearly, Melani does not want Tylee to have any way to communicate with Brandon and Adam, the dissenters. But for what reason, I don't know why. I also don't know why Lori would have Tylee's phone at this point.
I don't know, unless people in the family were calling her, because that is right after Charles died.
And Janice said that she looked really, really upset.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting question.
Well, and she's a teenager. She wants to talk to somebody. Like, they talk about their feelings. They want to unload. And she is stifling that to the nth degree. She doesn't have a phone. She's not in school. She's probably hanging out at home with her mom all the time.
And it lends a little insight, for me at least. I'm going to guess that they assume that Tylee would still want to reach out to Adam or Brandon, which means that she would not be playing on the correct page for Lori and Melani.
Yeah.
That's what I take away from it. And I never assumed that Tylee was on board with all this crazy nonsense. In fact, I still think that had she lived, she would be extremely traumatized by the obvious lies that her mother pretty much told her. Hey, this is the story we're selling to the police, because there's no way it happened that way. Not fully. So it makes me feel very sad to see that. But Melanie's the one that asks this question. So Melani clearly has had at least one conversation with Lori in which they discuss Tylee not necessarily staying in line. Lori also asks Chad to rid Melanie's home. I don't know what he was going to do, go over there with a bunch of sage. but rid the home of all the darkness. They go back and forth a bit. Apparently, the topic came up that Lori thought Brandon might be getting a temporary restraining order against her. And Chad said, no, because you haven't filed any charges. I don't even know what that means. That's backwards. You don't file charges and get a restraining order against you. That's kind of the opposite, but it's Chad Daybell. He says he'll cleanse Melanie's home, and he tells her that there's listening devices in it. So here he is now preying on Melanie's vulnerability, inferring here Brandon out to be some kind of like psychopathic, like out to get you any way I can. There's listening devices. Like it just...
It's interesting to me that he goes from...
Who's he, MacGyver now? He's going for listening devices and saging the place.
Well, then he's like, do you want to cuddle?
Yeah, I cut a lot. So most of this is a line-by-line text from documentation. Yeah. I could not. Let's just say that he follows up and concludes this conversation with Lori like, okay, well, I'm going to go get in bed. Can't wait to see you and snuggle. And I'm like...
But doesn't a normal like this whole scenario, whether it's self-defense, whatever the F you want to call it.
Effery.
I
have a potty mouth. One day you're all going to have to let me say F just like 40 times in an episode just to get it out of my system.
If he really and truly is like in this, cares about her, whatever, like, can we not ask, are you okay?
Yeah. This is like, Chud Daybell. He doesn't do that.
Chud needs to call and say, like, is Melanie okay? Are the kids okay? Like, what's going on?
See, but he doesn't have to do that because we all know that he knew what was going on. This was planned.
Well, he's like...
There's no need to ask.
God dose, right? 2.0 in his brain, which is wild to me. But anyway, I kind of, if I may... back up a little bit. I think it's interesting that Melanie specifically was asking, does Tylee have a way to communicate with Brandon or Adam? Mm-hmm. Because I'm wondering if they knew if one of them spoke to her, they could get her to come clean. Of like, what? Oh, yeah. What?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe not immediately, but definitely that genuine nurturing, and safe space clearly would have been. I mean, Brandon baptized Tylee.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and their families were close. They spent a lot of time together. I just, it's really sad to me because I'm sure Brandon thought about Tylee and JJ in that situation a lot.
Yeah.
And probably felt helpless. And he had a lot going on anyways. I'm not blaming anyone. All I'm saying is you're okay. It just feels very like the layers are making it more sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And then on this side of it, the Lori said more contrived.
Yeah.
July 19th. Melanie gets a burner phone and some of these texts in italics, I did have to put in there because it was, well, she is so excited about this burner phone. Maybe she wants to be MacGyver. I don't know. But she's like, it's Melanie Lee. It's my clear line. I think she said this on purpose. It's like these people clearly didn't imagine other people would be seeing their texts, but at the same time went out of their way to get burner phones. I'll use it for emergencies.
What?
There was no reason to even put... We all know why you have burners. Everyone's got a burner. Say less. Literally. Mm-hmm. So if you have something you want to send to this phone, text me a monkey see no evil emoji and I'll know to look in this one, a winky face. Like, for Melanie, let's just put it this way. She looks like she'd be a real stupid criminal. So I don't know how she hasn't been charged in this case yet.
Yeah, I don't know.
That doesn't look sus at all. Why do you need it for emergencies? You have a perfectly working phone. In any case, July 20th. Lori and Chad are talking about Melanie and Brandon's son Blake and that he is severely dark. So 2 of the 4 Boudreaux kids were labeled dark by Chad. I'm going to guess that Blake was one of them. Lori, What's Blake's percentage? He drew 3 crosses on a wall in his bedroom. We just finished painting over them. Like he was marking it for the dark side to find him. This, and between that story of JJ scaling walls and parkouring furniture, just makes me so angry. This is just... It's not even... Most good liars find the root of truth to tell the lie in so it can easily be recalled, but also be believable because there's a seed of truth to it. This is just wild. Wild. He's drawing crosses. Who does he... What is this, The Exorcist? He's not upstairs with his head spinning around, pea soup everywhere. What in the world?
I'm kind of at a loss. Honestly.
What? This, of all the things that don't make sense, these little anecdotes tucked into this whole thing, that just... It's not even believable, but sure. And... The Pillsbury Doe Chad.
The response is good from Chad.
Yes. Blake said a 7. I took my sword of light and sliced his aura vertically in several places. I'm going to pause here for 1 second because I told Lindsay this, and I think I told you guys this recently, that I gained aura points. It's kind of, I don't want to laugh because this is not a laughing matter. But when he says he sliced his aura, I'm thinking, oh, you lost aura points. Like, now that's all I can think of. Thank you.
Okay,
Generation
so
whatever.
Let's pretend this marker that I'm holding is a sword of light. Mm-hmm. It's green. Well, I sliced his aura vertically in several places. You should be able to now rip it and burn it.
I decreased his pain tolerance to 1% and greatly increased his pain. His desire to depart is about 80%. So, like, not only... It's like he's saying that just to make it sound more reasonable. Instead of being like, I saved the day. He's done now. I took care of it. No, he gives himself a little humility. Well, he's at 80% now. I got you, babe.
It's so stupid.
Like, I can't. His desire to depart is at 80%. Just 80? That's it? Okay. But what do we know? Jokes aside, about what happens to dark people, people with evil spirits, people that are at 80%, whatever. None of this makes sense. But what do we know about people who fall into this category? They eventually become a target. They eventually become eliminated. Or almost eliminated. Tylee was dark. JJ apparently was scaling walls and parkouring furniture. Charles
pictures of Jesus.
Yeah. Charles was Ned Schneider. Well, probably because Colby said eventually when she got super, super fake pious about it, she started decorating their homes with like pictures of temples. Maybe JJ was just tired of that ridiculous aesthetic. Not the point. It didn't happen.
Maybe he wasn't getting the attention he needed. So he just started tearing stuff up.
If that happened at all.
Yeah, if that even happened, because he's like, would someone interact with me, please?
Right. But, people who are deemed dark, I have yet to find evidence in this whole case. So if anyone watching has, and I've missed this reference, seen a case here where someone was labeled dark and they just like came through on the other side, like, nope, look at me, I'm light, I'm angels, let me know. But as far as I know, nobody that was deemed dark in this whole process ever became light. And all the people that were labeled as dark were people that posed a huge impediment to Lori and Chad. Tammy wasn't dark. He just knew she was going to die young, and that was just unfortunate, and it came true. Poor Tammy. But dark people, they eventually become no people. So now we're talking about Melani and Brandon's children. If that doesn't make your skin crawl any more than it already is, it should. And here is where I was a little surprised. July 21st, Melani texts Lori, you should get a life insurance policy on JJ, Tylee, and yourself. Because after Charles, we see that anything can always happen if it's in the Lord's will. What? What the actual F. Melani. And I just thought that was Lori's MO. But Melani comes up with that one all by herself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As
Go
she's
ahead.
continuing to pay on a life insurance policy for Brandon despite their divorce. Yeah, you should get a life insurance policy on you. She throws Lori in there and you, but I thought Lori already had a $2 million life insurance policy. That doesn't exist and nobody can find. But Melani is clearly thinking similarly here. You can see that she's not just thinking in this fanatical religious way. She's also thinking pragmatically, like Lori is.
Well, here's the thing, like, everybody's had drama in their family.
Mm-hmm.
Not to this extent, but
no.
Why do life insurance policies keep popping up? It's because it is a conversation that they have with each other all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I only talk about life insurance policy when, like, it's relevant. And I feel like this is something that they're like, well, what about this person? Do you think they have a life insurance policy on them? Like, what can we do there? You know?
Right. I don't even have a life insurance policy on my husband. But we talked about it when we got married because I have 2 stepkids. It's for their benefit. You know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I joke about pulling one every
Yeah.
time he makes me mad. I'm like, I'm going to go get an insurance policy and just end this.
Yeah.
But like,
I have never heard the terms life insurance policy and family tragedies so much as I have the past couple months. Sorry, I'm getting very frustrated. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. September of 2019, the Boudreaux divorce heats up. We will cover that entirely separately. The documents that Brandon files are very detailed about what he suspects, what he thinks Melani's behavior. Like, it's detailed, but that's not
wrong.
And he's not wrong. And there's a lot going on there, but that is not a direct contributor to what's leading up to October 2nd. So another time, but this is the time where it starts to get very contentious. Melani also leaves the church and she is now fully aligned with these apocalyptic beliefs, we'll say, Lori and Chad. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, Alex is pawning items in Idaho, probably because he's going to go buy more guns. Meanwhile, Brandon is still very much fearful for his life and has been checking in with Kay Woodcock. He's keeping her sort of informed, like, we're good, I'm good, everything's okay, which I think is very lovely, especially what has already happened. But obviously, many people were very concerned. And before the media and before the mainstream caught this case, friends and family were extremely concerned already for JJ and Tylee and everyone involved. But as these things started to happen, Brandon is rooftops screaming to everyone that will listen, the cops, okay, family members, this is connected. All of these crazy things are going to stop. No one would really listen to him either. Not so much that they wouldn't listen, but how do you connect dots that to some people they don't see in front of their faces? But here is the stupidest thing Melani could possibly have done. You might agree that as a co-parent, you would need to know where the other co-parent lives. However, considering that she has spent these intervening weeks hunting him down and looking for him because he's in hiding, and they're starting to go through this divorce, and then considering what happens shortly after this, there's no coincidences. September 17th, Melani flat out asks Brandon for his new address. And then on the 25th, he signs the lease and starts moving in. And on the 25th, Alex tints the windows on Tylee's Jeep as Brandon is moving into his new rental home. It's not a red flag if you are looking in the context of, okay, well, these people are getting divorced. Of course she needs to know where he lives. Her children will probably be there. But at this point, it's not really what's happening.
Well, also in this point in the timeline, Tylee has passed away.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Melani maintained, and I don't know what she maintains now, but Melani maintained that she had no reason to believe the children were harmed or dead or truly missing. If Lori said they were good, then she would believe it. I don't know what Melani knew about the kids, but that would also start to play a role in her divorce. But I won't get into it here. So Melani is directly asking Brandon for his new address, which on one hand does make plenty of sense. On the other hand, yikes. Brandon has gone on record to say that maybe 4 or 5 people knew where he'd be moving, and only one of them could possibly have been involved in what happened to him, and that'd be Melani. September 26th, 12:31, Melani gets on a flight leaving Arizona to go to Rexburg. She lands 3 hours later. For what? Not sure. Alex gets a new burner phone. Brandon tells Kay, hey, one of my kids said that Lori moved to Idaho. How he knows that, I don't know. But so Kay is starting to get her sniffers on the right path here because Brandon is helping her. So Brandon is kind of a pain in the ass for Lori, not just Melani. Good for him.
I like it.
I like it too. September 28th, Alex is at that shooting range that everyone's been talking about, firing practice rounds, but clearly didn't practice enough in Rexburg. And here is, again, stupid criminals. Stupid criminals. Lori is searching on September 30th how to get the back seat out of my Jeep Wrangler. There is surveillance video of her putting the back seat of a Jeep Wrangler into a storage unit along with a spare tire that goes in the back of a Jeep.
Yeah, you guys all saw Chad hit her butt.
Yeah. God. Also, if you're going to use the Jeep registered to your ex-husband that everyone knew your daughter was driving, they didn't change the plates. They didn't paint the Jeep. Just, okay. Meanwhile, Alex's phone is pinging at Lori's apartment, his real phone. He is making calls to and from Chad all day on burner phones, but his actual phone stays in that apartment until October 3rd. So he's clearly just moving and grooving now with the burner phone. And on September 30th, Alex is now getting on the road. He is driving the Jeep Wrangler, checks his plates, LWD 0997. Towards Arizona, he is clocked southbound on, shouldn't say 115, I should say I-15, COVID, near Blackfoot, Idaho. And then Melani starts enlisting her trusted friends to figure out where Brandon had been hiding. I don't know why it mattered since he had just given her his new address, but Melani Gibb was a dutiful friend and started knocking on neighbors' doors to see if anyone had any insight. So good on her for being such a loyal friend. It makes no sense, but I digress. October 1st. Very early in the morning, like 6, 7 a.m., the Jeep is seen moving westbound on I-40 near Holbrook, Arizona. It is then observed circling Brandon's neighborhood. We'll get into that in the next part because there's eyewitnesses. There's all kinds of things going on. Alex and Chad are on the phone, burner phones, both located in Arizona, intermittently all day and all night. For 2 dudes that suddenly found themselves, being bros, that's a lot of conversation. But okay. This is the same day that Lori goes and opens an account for that 10 by 10 self-storage plus unit in Idaho. We've seen their surveillance videos of the butt tap, but she is again seen storing children's items, the Jeep wheel, the collapsible back seat. That is the same day as well that the former Boudreaux residence is sold. And the last item, we'll just put this here because we all know October 2nd is the next day. Alex is searching for Brandon's new address, 3875 East Phelps Street in Gilbert, Arizona. Now, how would he have that address?
Brandon didn't give it to him.
So logic would dictate that Melani did. That's it. Melani did.
And why would Melani give Alex the address?
For what purpose?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. It's not a conspiracy or anything like that. So these events, although very briefly summarized, as briefly as I could make them, are in the immediate build up to October 2nd that sort of start to braid Melani and Brandon in a little bit more. But I think it's pretty evident to me there is conspiring happening. And why? Money, eliminating more problems, and of course, getting what you want when you want it, how you want it, a la Lori. I still don't feel bad for Melani because she's bought completely in. Do I feel that her childhood trauma and her obvious insecure attachment to Lori is a motivating factor for her to want to please and be on the right side of her aunt? Yes. Do I think that she felt pressured or guilty? No, I think she was a willing participant that really did buy in. It's just unfortunate that it was that easy for Lori to incorporate her into this fold because she knew the type of power she would have over Melani. And for Melani to feel that complete family unit, she's calling Chad dad in recorded. It almost makes you feel a little bit bad for her that whatever is going on psychologically took her to this point. But I don't feel bad because it's not as if this was an isolated thing. Lori's clearly 3 olives short of martini herself. So it's pretty evident to me why Melani had motivation to see October 2nd happen very differently. But it gets a lot more detailed and a lot more down the rabbit hole from here. So part 1, there you go. Here's what's happening before October 2nd. Here's how Melani is sort of on the periphery and involved, and how that motivates all of the people involved, because Brandon was not just a problem for Melani. He was a problem for everybody.
Yeah. And excuse me. I think that it's just through the extra text messages that were thrown in there, it's kind of showing how they wanted to get rid of not only Brandon, but Adam.
And possibly some or all of their children.
Some or all
that
of
Melani
their children
is fighting so hard for later on.
Yeah. Zach was on the list. I mean, It's just interesting that the people who are on this dark list are people that are holding them back.
Holding them back, raising alarms, creating obstacles.
Yeah.
It's not about religion. It's about just the damn inconvenience of people peopling. But I'm very glad that Brandon peopled how he did. He is still here. I'm glad that Alex, despite all the practice in the world, was a terrible shot. That I don't understand that part. You have a terrible hitman, dude. Didn't do the best job. But yeah, I'm not praising, and I don't even know where that criticism fits in, but
yeah,
but it's
well, it is, and we're glad that Brandon made it out of this alive.
And he can talk all about it.
And goodness, hold on, the devil's coming out of my voice.
Ooh. Did Lori start doing a casting, or did it jump out of someone else? How did it get it? Do you need sage?
You're watching me turn dark.
Ooh.
No, fine.
Ooh. Find me some holy water.
Yeah, I'm going to edit that out. Anyways, I'm glad that Brandon is still with us. Yeah. Brandon, we send you all of our love and support. I know that life is probably chaos right now, I think is a nice way to put it. But just know that there are a lot of friends on the internet that have your back. Including us.
There are. What I meant to say is there are. And that are trying to help explain this to the people in the back, so to speak, that don't quite understand it. So, but yeah, we're very excited for you to have your day in court, multiple days in court. Like this is.
Yeah. And hopefully after the summer, things will start chilling out a little bit. I know that he has just really gone through it. I can't even imagine. Can you guys even imagine? Can you imagine?
he still has to co-parent with this woman. Like, this doesn't end here unless Melani goes to prison.
Well, and then, like, I mean, if you want to do like a throwback to at the beginning of all this, where his wife out of nowhere is like, "You're evil,"
Right.
and he's like,
Right.
"What?"
I mean, do we think that maybe the co-parenting is less threatening, terrifying, scary now that Melani doesn't have all of these people to help the wheels turn? Like, is Melani just chilling somewhere like, well, I guess that was fun while it lasted. I guess I'll go back to being a normal person now. Like, what does that even look like? But I cannot imagine having to share children with her, even though the last I saw that the primary custody was no longer an issue. But again, we'll get into that later. But having to keep this person in your life, yeah, that's a hard no for me. So my hat's off to you, because I don't know how you're doing it. And not that I hope the mother of your children goes to prison, and that would be terrible and sad for anybody, no matter what you've done. But I hope she goes to prison so you can sleep at night and not have to share your children with her.
Yeah, well, I just hope that,
So sad.
you know, this trial comes and goes and there is resolution.
Yep.
And that he can find peace and be able to move forward, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
So guys, like, share, subscribe if you want. Stay here for more Brandon and Melani content.
We're going to keep it shorter too. We're going to get right to the point. We're going to keep the information coming, but I'm coming out of the Rona Paxlovid, so this has been a real treat today.
Yeah.
I'm just so excited.
Yeah, she's had a bit of cog fog a little, but we're coming out of it. We're coming through it. Yeah. We were going to do Karen Reed, maybe like gloss over it, but I don't know if that's gonna. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm good, and we're not gonna do diddly with Diddy.
No.
Unless something is absolutely bananas, I'm gonna leave that where it is.
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah. We're not gonna do P. Diddy. I was reading
forces of nature for that one.
I was reading some stuff about it today, and I was like, I can't even read this. I can't.
Yeah, it's hearkening back to R. Kelly, and that was extremely uncomfortable. So yeah, stick around because there is more to come. It'll be a deeper dive and a lot more nuanced, but this was the sort of too long didn't read context leading up to October 2nd. Before you know it, here soon we will have the full breakdown, hour by hour, play by play of October 2nd, the day we almost lost another soul, but did not, Mr. Brandon Boudreaux. And we will keep the content coming, even if we have to start phoning a friend to fill in some gaps. So,
and you might see listening. A Cox come in here.
We might need. We're leaving that in because that's awesome.
It's late. Okay,
Adam, we're talking about you. Yeah. Rex, you're not a Cox. You're a Connor, but you count.
You're a Connor. So, you count. You're a part of the family. Guys, hang out with us. Come back for more Brandon content. We've got all of the Valo stuff, and then we'll go into Donna.
Donna. Miss Adelson, if you're nasty. All right. Well, I guess I
Kimberly,
should see you all out.
Please
I really don't want you all to leave because this is the most human I've been all week, but it's probably time for me to take my meds and go take a coma. So please make good choices and stick around because we're just going to keep coming back with more. So good night and goodbye.
Start over. We're so stupid. So extra. We have no business being on the internet.